The greatest king in Israelite history, the man God chose, the man whose dynasty was promised to last forever, had a great-grandmother from a people so despised that Scripture explicitly banned them from ever entering the community of Israel. That's the story the Book of Ruth tells, and it was almost certainly written to start a fight. Deuteronomy 23 verse 3. No Ammonite or Moabite shall be admitted to the congregation of the Lord. Ruth chapter 4 verse 17. The father of Jesse, the father of David. To understand why this little 4-chapter book is so explosive, we need to start with a famine, a funeral, and a choice. The Moabites were Israel's hostile neighbor to the southeast across the Dead Sea. The contempt ran deep. During the wilderness journey, Moab refused Israel passage and hired Balaam to curse them. Deuteronomy 23 banned Moabites from the congregation permanently, and the Genesis traced Moab's very origin to Lot's incest with his own daughter. This is the nation the story opens toward. A man named Elimelech takes his wife Naomi and their 2 sons from Bethlehem, the house of bread, across the Rift Valley to Moab during a famine. His sons marry Moabite women. Then all 3 men die, leaving Naomi stranded in a foreign land with 2 foreign daughters-in-law and nothing else. The author signals from the start that this is a carefully constructed work. The characters' names encode their fates. Mahlon means sickness. Chilion means destruction. Both die early. Orpah means back of the neck, the part you see when someone turns away. She will do exactly that. Ruth's name likely means friend or companion. She will live up to it. With the men dead, Naomi decides to return to Bethlehem and urges both daughters-in-law to go back to their Moabite families. Orpah kisses Naomi goodbye, her name fulfilled. Ruth clings, and she delivers one of the most striking declarations in the Hebrew Bible. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. This is not sentiment. It's a voluntary act of covenant membership. Ruth is choosing to join Israel by conviction and loyalty, not by birth or bloodline. She's doing what the Deuteronomic law says a Moabite cannot do, entering the congregation of the Lord. The 2 women arrive in Bethlehem destitute. Ruth supports Naomi in the only way she can, gleaning. That means gathering leftover grain from harvested fields, a legal provision for the poor mandated in the Torah. It's survival level work. And it puts Ruth in the field of a man named Boaz. Boaz is a wealthy landowner and a kinsman of Naomi's dead husband. He notices Ruth's diligence, protects her, shares his meal. His blessing is revealing. He prays she'll find refuge under the wings of the God of Israel. Naomi recognizes Boaz as something specific, a goel. A goel is a redeemer-kinsman, and the role carried 3 legal obligations. First, debt redemption, buying back a kinsman's land or freeing a family member sold into servitude. Second, levirate marriage, marrying a kinsman's childless widow to produce an heir in the dead man's name. Third, blood vengeance, avenging a kinsman's murder. Naomi sees the goel as the answer to everything, their poverty and Ruth's childless widowhood. Now she needs to activate it. Her plan is audacious. Naomi instructs Ruth to bathe, anoint herself, put on her finest clothes, and go to the threshing floor at night, a place associated with harvest revelry and sexual license. She's to wait until Boaz has eaten and drunk, uncover his feet, a phrase loaded with euphemistic possibility in Hebrew, and lie down. When Boaz startles awake at midnight, Ruth makes her move. She asks him to spread your robe over your servant, for you are a redeemer-kinsman. The Hebrew here is extraordinary. Earlier, Boaz blessed Ruth under God's wings, the Hebrew word kanaf. Now Ruth asks Boaz to spread his robe, the exact same word kanaf, over her. She's making a formal claim of espousal under the goel obligation, and she's doing it with a theological argument. You invoked God's protection over me, now be the human instrument of it. This is not a romance scene, it's legal strategy wrapped in literary brilliance. Boaz agrees, but reveals a complication. A closer kinsman has first right of refusal. A public legal proceeding in chapter 4 clears the obstacle. The book builds to its final reveal, a genealogy. In ancient literature, genealogies are never neutral. They're arguments. Ruth the Moabite marries Boaz, their son, Obed. Obed fathers Jesse. Jesse fathers David. Let that land. David, God's anointed king, recipient of the eternal covenant, root of the messianic line, descends directly from a woman whose people were banned from the congregation. And the author has repeated the phrase Ruth the Moabite throughout the entire narrative to make sure no one misses the point. If David is legitimate and the entire theological tradition depends on it, then a purely genealogical definition of who belongs to Israel collapses. This argument targets a specific historical opponent. After Babylon destroyed the temple and the exiles returned to Jerusalem, leaders like Ezra and Nehemiah mandated that Israelite men divorce their foreign wives. Bloodline purity, they argued, was essential to preserve the community. The Book of Ruth pushes back. Ezra defined belonging by genealogy and viewed foreigners as threats to faithfulness. Ruth defines belonging by hesed, a Hebrew term meaning steadfast covenantal loyalty, not generic kindness, but binding, self-giving faithfulness. Ezra's position never became normative for all of Judaism. Rabbinic tradition developed formal conversion procedures, and to this day, the Book of Ruth, not Ezra, is read aloud in Jewish conversion ceremonies. The Book of Ruth addresses the question every community eventually faces, the question of who belongs, and whether belonging is defined by blood or by commitment. Ruth, from the wrong nation, the wrong religion, the wrong bloodline, becomes the model of covenantal fidelity. Her story shaped Rabbinic Judaism's embrace of the convert. It influenced Christian theology, where the goel became a foundational metaphor for Christ as Redeemer. And it placed two competing visions of identity within the same sacred canon, exclusion and inclusion side by side, forcing every generation to choose. The story's presence in Scripture is itself an argument. Identity is not a gate to be guarded, but a covenant to be joined. A Moabite widow, gleaning leftover grain in a stranger's field, became the great-grandmother of a king, because she chose loyalty when she could have walked away. The Book of Ruth insists that the most radical act of belonging is not being born into the right family. It's the decision to bind yourself to a people and a God when every calculation says turn back.